but it is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been on.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
What's up, everybody? My name is Paul Weston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you guys get your podcast. Make sure you guys show your support wherever you're watching, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow. We appreciate it. And good morning, everybody. Sergeant CVO, Jared B., a member of the Boy Green Super Fan Club, baby. Boop, boop, boop. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for popping in. The point of today's show in particular is going to be talking about the potential of Jets general manager Joe Douglas trading up again in round one. It's something that has been a trend, okay? Joe Douglas's first draft class with the New York Jets was in 2020. And he's had 2020, he's had 2021, he's had 2022, he's had 2023. That is 4 draft classes. In half of his draft classes, he has traded up in the first round to get who he wants. That happened in 2021 when he traded up from 23rd overall to 14th overall to select Elijah Vera-Tucker. He deemed Elijah Vera-Tucker to be one of his highly graded players on the board. So he said, that's an opportunity we can't pass up. We got to trade up for AVT. Then in 2022 and back-to-back years, he traded up to get Jermaine Johnson because they had some extra draft capital. They end up moving up for him. Now, Jermaine Johnson looks spectacular. He's been pretty darn good coming off a career year where he really popped. There's no question about it. And then AVT, the jury's still kind of out. When he's on the field, obviously he's been spectacular, but, you know, he's got to get healthy. And let me also mention this. For old AVT, the Jets in May have to make a decision on his 5th-year option. You know, I would say time flies, but time flies with all the injuries. He's had 2 years of these, season-ending injuries that have robbed him of some of these early rookie years. But the Jets do have to make a decision on that 5th-year option, which will be very interesting. I think they're going to accept that just because of all the potential that he possesses, but you can never know. So 2 of the 4 years he has traded up in round one. We haven't seen it since 2022. So maybe, in other words, we're due, quite frankly, if we've got it 2 of the last 4 years. And I'll explain some of the scenarios that they could trade up because currently the Jets have the 10th overall pick, no second round pick, and kind of limited assets overall from that draft perspective. Now, a lot of people have argued, Paul, should the Jets trade back? Sure, it could make sense. A popular trade back is you go from 10 to like 15, 17, maybe you recoup that second round pick you lost in the Aaron Rodgers trade. So there's been some speculation from that standpoint the Jets could trade back. I'll just tell you this. I'm not saying this means it's not going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it's history. Joe Douglas has never traded back in round one throughout his entire career. And that is 4 drafts we're talking about here. In 2020, he stuck to his guns and took Mekhi Becton with the 11th overall pick. Zach Wilson, he had the number 2 overall pick, and he additionally had the 23rd overall pick from the Jamal Adams trade. Thank you very much. He traded up, did not trade back. You go to 2022, he had the 4th overall pick. He had the 10th overall pick. He stuck to his guns and took Sauce Gardner, and Garrett Wilson, respectively, plus the trade up for Jermaine Johnson. They also tried to trade up in round 1 for Breece Hall as well. They were still able to get him in the second round. So no trade back. And then obviously Will McDonald with the 15th overall pick. Now, some people would say they probably should have traded back there, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that it hasn't happened. So it makes sense on the surface to trade back to recoup that second round pick. And if you look at the draft value chart, the Jets don't have to go back very far to be able to recoup that pick. You know, a 5 to 7 pick drop could get you back immediately one of those second round picks and have you operating with closer to a full deck of cards, if not exactly a full deck of cards. So that to me is the intriguing part of the equation. Joe Douglas hasn't done it. Doesn't mean he won't. But I wonder if that's how they recoup the second round pick. So you have more lottery tickets because the Jets do have a variety of needs. But let's start off with this because we're asking the question, will Jets GM Joe Douglas trade up in round one? Now, I've asked the fans, quite frankly, because there are a couple of scenarios where this is possible, and I see it. Here it is, because Bob Sanders says in our Twitter, thanks for popping on, the two big offensive linemen aren't there. Brock Bowers should be the pick. The two big offensive linemen is where I want to take this conversation, because depending on the mock draft that you participate in, whether it's Todd McShay's or Jordan Reed's or what have you, there's a lot of really good draft experts and analysts out there. There was a mock draft that came out from The Athletic, Nick Baumgardner, and he had Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt slipping to the 6th overall pick. And I've been seeing this in a couple of places, 6th, 7th, and we'll talk about all of them here. But I thought to myself, okay, if he falls to 6 and the Jets are at 10, that seems within range potentially to move up. And let's show this up on the big board. I asked the fans a couple days ago this week if they would be willing to trade up to the 6th overall pick for a guy like Joe Alt. Here was the question. In Nick Baumgardner's mock draft, that's for The Athletic, he had Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt slipping to number 6. Now, he didn't have the Jets trading up, but I made the scenario. If Joe Alt is going to fall there to 6, as Nick prognosticated in this piece, if you were the Jets, would you be willing to trade this? This is what it would cost, according to the NFL draft value chart. 10th overall, so a first-round pick swap. Number 72 overall, that's the Jets' 3rd round pick, plus number 112 overall, their 4th round pick, to trade up for that one pick. So you'd have to give up 3 picks for one player to get Joe Alt. Again, according to the draft value chart, that doesn't always have to equate exactly. Sometimes the team could ask for more or what have you, but it's kind of a guideline of what it would cost. And I asked the fans, yes, make it happen, which again, in this scenario, you'd get Joe Alt, or no, too expensive. We had 1,000+ votes. 73% of the fans said no, it would be too expensive to pay that kind of premium to move up for Joe Alt. So that, like I said, is kind of interesting from the fans. And again, the number 6 overall pick is worth 1,600 points according to the NFL draft value chart. The combination of those picks I mentioned, their 1st round pick, 3rd round pick, and 4th round pick are 1,600 points. Now, where we get into, I think, a more understandable scenario was this. Dane Brugler of The Athletic had Joe Alt slipping to the number 7 overall pick, and it kind of changes the draft value chart dramatically. Let me explain. So I tweeted this out yesterday. If he fell to the 7th overall pick, as it did in this scenario for Joe Alt, the 7th overall pick is worth 1,500 points. For the Jets to match that, they would have to send the 10th overall pick, a first-round pick swap, their 3rd round pick, to the Titans. They would get their 7th overall pick and a 5th rounder. So that's not too bad. You're giving 2 picks for 2 picks. You're moving up a little in the 1st round to potentially get Joe Alt, and then you're switching your 3rd round pick out for a 5th round pick. Now, I don't normally like dropping 2 rounds. It's pretty significant, but at the end of the day, to retain the pick and just be picking a little later and then get, in theory, the offensive tackle of your dreams, not bad, not too shabby. Also, here's another possibility, and we've been seeing it quite frequently. Let me throw this up on the board. In Dane Brugler's mock draft scenario, he had Olu Fashanu, the Penn State offensive tackle. Excuse me, this is the wrong one here. Let me move this one. Too many tabs, folks. Let me move this one for all our people who are watching. I'll also explain it for any of our people listening on just the audio-only version. So in Dane Brugler's latest mock draft for The Athletic that came out this week, he did have Joe Alt falling to the 7th overall pick, which I speculated, could that be within range for a mini trade up from Joe Douglas, which kind of inspired this video, but maybe not, because once again, Olu Fashanu fell to the 10th overall pick in this mock draft scenario, who is the 2nd best offensive tackle on the board. Now, that could happen, and then maybe the Jets don't have to trade up at all. They get a guy like Olu Fashanu. Here is the read from Dane Brugler on Olu Fashanu. Quote, though his run blocking is a work in progress, Fashanu already offers pro-level pass protection because of his body control, light feet, and ability to sit down versus power. His intelligence and A+ character are the cherries on top. end quote. That coming from old Dane Brugler there of Fasciano. Again, if you could get him by just simply parking your keister at 10th overall and then having that guy fall to you, that to me would be spectacular. That would be fantastic in that scenario. Shout out to Matt O'Leary, who keeps speaking this draft scenario into existence with the potential of Olu Fashanu falling, which obviously that could really mix up everything if that does indeed happen from that perspective, to be able to help fill those holes. Because again, both of the Jets starting tackles from week 1 of 2023 are set to be free agents. That, of course, is Mekhi Becton and Dwayne Brown. We'll see if either come back. Dwayne Brown, I would imagine not. I think he's going to retire. And then Mekhi Becton, maybe a 1-year prove-it deal is possible, as we have Jared B. saying it's hard to say without free agency first. I think the Jets' best course of action is a multi-layered approach. You can't go into the draft needing both starting tackles. That puts you in a real tough pickle. We'll do the AVT conversation at some point this week about guard or tackle, and we'll play some of the bites from Saleh and AVT himself. But, they want to keep him at one position. You could put him at guard, you could put him at tackle. Maybe what happens in free agency can dictate where I think I want to put him. Are they getting a Tyron Smith? We put that video up on the YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. Ritzimini mentioned Tyron Smith as a possibility for the New York Jets. He's a blindside protector. In theory, you grab a guy like that, plug him in on the blind side. You have him, you have Lakin, you have Joe Tippmann, and then are you putting AVT at right guard? Are you putting AVT at right tackle? Is it going to depend on the draft potentially as you're trying to fill out some of those holes? That's where I guess, like I said, we could get a little funky. And that's another thing Phil brings us up. Use a future pick. We are in a win now mode. That's, of course, another possibility in some of these trade up scenarios. The Jets are in a win now mode, which also factors back into the conversation that I kind of hinted at earlier. I get trading back recoups the second round pick, but if you're in win now mode, don't you want the best possible player available right now? I guess the only caveat to that, as I answer my own question that I've thrown out into the universe, is if you have a lot of guys similarly graded, you're at 10th overall, and let's say you got, 7 players with basically the same grade, then in theory, you could drop 5, 6, 7 spots, and you're guaranteed to get one of your players in that tier. So that, to me, I guess would make sense if you decide to trade back. But in these scenarios, where protection is the most important thing for Aaron Rodgers, that's the key to the puzzle. That's the straw that stirs the drink. That's, quite frankly, I think going to be the difference between the Jets being an okay, good team next year to a great team, is having that kind of pass protection. And again, I don't know where all of you guys stand on whether you are alt people or whether you are Fashanu people. Here's what I could tell you, because I don't know. I'm just diving into the entire mock draft process myself, so I'm not really fully convinced on ultimately what that's going to be in this process of who I'm going to lean towards. But here's the thing I want to throw up here. It's from Daniel Jeremiah, a guy I love, a guy I respect. There's a lot of cool draft opinions out there, but this one I do want to put out there in the universe. This is Daniel Jeremiah. He tweeted this out. Teams are going to have the top 8 to 10 offensive tackles in all different orders. They're each outstanding, but come with different skills and traits. I don't think there's a clear-cut top guy right now. A bunch of guys competing for that top spot. Great year to need one. Loaded offensive tackle class, and that is sweet music to the New York Jets, because obviously at the 10th overall pick, they need perhaps both tackles. At this moment, they do, if not more. So if all of these guys are kind of jumbled up and like draft experts saying, oh yeah, definitely Joe R, or oh yeah, definitely Fashanu, that's good news for the Jets, because there's some level of disarray. The Jets should be able to get one of their guys. Maybe they don't need to trade up if Daniel Jeremiah's assessment is correct, that everyone's going to have these guys differently because they just seem to have varying skill sets. Again, what I would love for the Jets to do is try to fill. This is also what I do in Madden, if I'm going to be honest. You fill as many holes as possible in free agency, and you increase the flexibility in the draft. I know all you guys hate the BPA term, but I like the flexibility. I hate going into a draft where, hey, think about last year. Again, there's the Broderick Jones controversy where everyone knows that you need an offensive tackle, so it's easier to snipe you, trade in front of you, and try to dupe you. because everyone knows what you need. If you fill a lot of your holes and you're kind of a mystery, I don't really know what the Jets need. That's a great position to be in because then no one can leapfrog you. No one can jump you because you could grab whatever the heck you want to grab. So again, right now, if I had to place a large wager on it with an amount of money that I cared about, I feel like it's going to be offensive tackle for the New York Jets at this point. Of course, again, free agency's got to happen. There's the trade market. There's a lot of creative ways to fill voids on the roster. But based on everything that I understand, the Jets are going to use their first-round draft choice on an offensive tackle. And you could sprinkle in all that love, whether it's mock drafts like Dane Brugler's and Nick Baumgartner's and all these guys that are kind of, projecting these falls potentially for some of these offensive tackles, whether it's 7, 10, what have you. I think Joe Douglas will also be tempted to make a mini trade up. He's done it in the past when there's a guy he wants. And that's really the point of this video. When there is proven to be a guy he wants, a guy that he values differently than everybody else, he's willing to pay the biscuit to get it. Jermaine Johnson's a great example. He was trying to trade up. He admitted in the Jets documentary all the way at the 15th overall pick. He ultimately got him at 26. So he's making calls. Like, please, I'm trying to move up. But I think one of the things to really appreciate about that is Joe Douglas didn't get reckless. He didn't say, whoever had the 15th overall pick that year for that 2022 draft, I will give you anything for the 15th overall pick so I could grab Jermaine. He was patient. He said, 15, how much is it? Too expensive. 16, how much is it? Too expensive. 17, 18, 19, 20. And then he went through the process. And then by the time we got to 26, he was able to finally strike a deal at the appropriate value. That's a part I think that's important. So I'm willing to sacrifice future picks, but not recklessly. Like if someone's like, yeah, I'll take your first rounder next year, I'll be like, yeah, kiss my cheeks, pal. That ain't happening. So there's still a line of delineation here. Just because Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, all these guys are on the hot seat, I don't want them to change. Like, I want them to change the way they're operating, but I don't want them to just say, well, I'm not going to be here next year, so sure, take our first round pick. Like, that's what I mean. I don't want that level of alteration. Do I want a little urgency? Do I want a little pep in the step? Absolutely. I think we all need that, quite frankly, especially when you know your buns are on the line here. But I think it's very important to build this properly. And I say the encouraging thing is seeing this on Twitter this week of Daniel Jeremiah really talking up the top 8 to 10 offensive tackles. Well, guess what? The Jets have the 10th overall pick. They're guaranteed to get one of those guys. And I'm going to be honest, there's not going to be 8 to 10 offensive tackles that go in the first round. Right now, the conversation is Joe Alt and Fashanu. Joe Alt seems to be the consensus number one, but obviously not. As Daniel Jeremiah just said, everyone's going to have a different guy on top of that board. But that seems to be the play for the New York Jets. We will see. I've seen some other possibilities. Let's go in the chat here. Let's get a couple of chat comments here. Phil says, I'd trade up for one of the top offensive linemen or impact pass catchers. Yeah, if a Marvin Harrison Jr. slips, I'm willing to get a little freaky. That I am. We'll see, because it would have to be like a quarterback run and other things. Like, there's a chance he could go 3rd overall to New England. Like, Drake May, Caleb Williams goes 1-2, boom, boom. And then 3rd overall, the Patriots come up. They're like, you know what? Let's just get Marvin Harrison. Super high floor, safe player. He's going to be a superstar, and just get that guy. That could happen. But they could go, no, we need to get our quarterback, Jay Daniels. And all of a sudden, boop, 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 boop. Marvin starts slipping. I'm like, you know what? I'd be willing to move and groove just because of how confident I am in the player. All of it. That I'd be willing to make some biscuits for. That's absolutely true. Joe Campione says, no, you got to trade down. They need a quarterback, 3 to 4 offensive linemen, wide receiver 2, defensive tackle, and safety. Yeah, those are all things they need. Plus, I mean, you're going to have to fill some of this in free agency. I think they need an RB2. We'll be talking about that on the Thursday live stream, the afternoon Thursday live stream. You could say a tight end. You might need another tight end in that group. Tyler Conklin's entering the last year of his deal. Jeremy Ruckert over halfway through his rookie contract. Yeah, there's a lot of needs, quite frankly. So you're going to have to see what you fill in free agency and obviously what can happen with the draft. So a trade down makes sense. He's just never done it. So I wonder if this will finally be the year. Let's see. Most High Mansa Dushan says can't cut bait on AVT. Even if they decline his 5th year option, he would still be eligible. He'd still be under contract, for 2024. But I don't think they're going to decline that. I think they will accept it, to be honest. Yes, make trade. Okay. Charles says the Jets should trade back. Okay, that seems to be the popular thought here on the channel for the most part. Phil is concerned that waiting like we did last year for an offensive lineman will have us holding our tool again while we miss out. Could be. That's what happened with the Jets last time. They waited to potentially, again, depending on your take on the Broderick Jones situation. They waited till 15. They didn't get him. Again, I just feel like the first-round pick swap was extra action the Jets didn't need to do. I think if the Jets would have said, no way, we're not trading the first-round pick swap, you're getting a friggin' second this year, you're getting a conditional second next year, like, there you go. That's the deal. I think the Packers would have went, okay, let's do the deal. I don't think they would have said, if there's no pick swap, we're not doing it. Like, who were they competing against? So they should have told them to kick rocks. So aggression will be important. That's why I think if he slips, Joe Alt, whoever, Fashanu, or one of these top pass catchers you really love, if they slip into trade-up range where it's going to cost you like a third or like a swap of a third to a fifth, that's where you're like, okay, let's think about this. And you could set that up in advance. Jerby likes a Dunze, that Washington receiver. That could make sense. Johnny says it as well. I'd like a Dunze or Fuaga. That's another guy's picking up some steam. I hope all the entire draft results, quite frankly, are on offense. Offense. That's what I need. Jerby says we need probably the Bong video. Yeah, I had a YouTube short on that from our Dom C conversation. We may have to get creative. We may need to AI some stuff to ruin this kid's draft life so he can fall to us. We may have to do that. You got to do what you got to do. Let's see. Okay. Anything else? Draft the best tackle. Junior says draft the best tackle, and I'm just settled this problem once and for all. That wouldn't be bad. Free agency bingo. Yeah, T. Higgins, if he gets there, I am very, very interested. I'm very interested in T. Higgins. Again, I think all of these guys have bugaboos, as we will find out, but T. Higgins, young, add him to Garrett Wilson. You have a nice dynamic 1-2 punch for the foreseeable future. Very, very interesting. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in for another episode of Boy Green Daily. We'll have another one tomorrow. I think we're going to jump on the Elijah Vera Tucker conversation. Guard or tackle? We'll probably put that up on a poll to all our fans. So make sure you guys check out on Twitter at BoyGreen25, and then we'll probably talk about those results here on the program. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you guys check out some of the videos this week. Like I said, last week had former NFL GM Randy Mueller on. He mocked the entire Jets offseason. That was pretty cool. We had him on the program. Plus, we have all these live shows. Live every morning. Plus, we have the live afternoon shows. We talked about which Jets veteran quarterback will be added to the roster this offseason. We had that on the live show yesterday. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you again here very soon on the channel. God bless. Take care.